So today I'm making a 5-colour bird for a workshop with Key Stage 4 children. That's 7 to 8 year olds or 8 to 9, around about 8 year olds. I'm using polystyrene or polyboard, and you press your design into it with a pencil. So I've already pressed the outline of a bird into it. This one's going to be an abstract bird, and I've made it very basic, and I'm going to cut out each of the different shapes and the background to make lots of different colours. So I'm using a black piece of paper and I'm marking off the corners so I can keep putting different layers on and get them in the same place every time. And I'm using black so that the outlines will be black. Whatever colour of paper you put in the background, that's what colour the outlines will be. So there we go. The pale blue is a bit patchy, but that's okay because I'm going to do a few different layers on top of it. So I've got my cutting mat here because I'm now going to get my scalpel and I'm going to cut out different sections of the bird. So I'll cut the whole bird out so I can make different backgrounds, and then I'm going to cut the sections out of the bird and place them one by one onto the print to add different colours. So cutting out, I've speeded it all up because you don't want to watch me cutting out shapes. So I've used a pencil to indent to press the bird shape into the polystyrene, and the polystyrene, it's called either polystyrene or polyboard, and you can buy it from art shops or you can just find it in packaging. All sorts of things have polystyrene in them and polyboard, like pizza. If you some pizza companies, if you open up the box, they use a circle of polystyrene to separate the pizza from the cardboard, and if you give it a good wash, you can make a print out of it. So I'm cutting out some of them. Some manufacturers, it's quite soft and you can just use the pencil to keep pressing until it goes right the way through to the bottom and separates. But this one's quite tough, so I'm using a craft knife. I'm going to cut all the sections out and the main bird itself to do a different background. So this way you can, if you press into the pieces, you can then add different inks over the top, and whatever you press down or cut out won't get ink on it, and that way you can add detail. So you could press a pattern into the background and then put another colour over the top of it, and you'd just get the indents the same colour as what you've already done, which is pale blue. But I'm cutting out sections of the bird to then place them in different colours. So I'm going to have red, green, blue, yellow, and then we've got the pale blue background, and we have the black lines as well. So this is a piece that I'm doing for a Year 4 workshop, and it's just a demo. I'm just taking a few samples in. There's one where you carve into the background. There's one where that's a little bird. Then there's a puffin that shows you taking out the background. And then there's this one, which is a multicoloured one. And I don't want to make them too difficult because the age group is quite young. They're primary school children, and I want them to succeed. And if I show them something that's too complex, they'll want to make the same thing and they'll think they've failed unless they make something similar to what I've made. And so I want them to succeed, so I'm using something quite simple. This is the most complex out of the three. So they're all birds. There are three of them. There's the little flying bird in green and yellow. There's the puffin in black and white and red with a blue background. And now there's this one, which is going to be different colours, sort of block cubist colours. And this is the hardest one. On the actual day, I only used the other two. I didn't use this one because this one's a more adult piece of work. So this is for adults to try, or older children. And I was doing it as part of Purbeck Art Week, which is at the end of May, right up until around about the 22nd, I think, of May, until about the 8th or 9th of June. And it's an art exhibition, a very large one, not just art but the arts, and it's music and performance and all sorts of different types of art all over Purbeck, an area of Dorset. And I'm going to be exhibiting in Rollington Barn, which is in Corfe Castle, an old barn, and that's where the artists are going to be exhibiting. And then there are lots of artists who also have their own studios, and then there's also the children's exhibition, or PYA. That's Purbeck Young Artists, PYA. And I've been a part of that this year, as well as just exhibiting myself. I'm doing 2 pop-up studios in the tent, and where I'm showing how to do jelly printing on one of them, and making pottery ceramic goddesses in the second one. And this was for a children's workshop when I went into a school. I went in 2 different schools to do the year 4s, and then I went in another school to do some year 10s, and they did silhouettes of birds. Everything's bird themed for the Purbeck Young Artists. And then we're putting them all together. I've brought all their work home. Some of them have made giant feathers to make giant wings. Some of them have made bird prints. Some have made fabric birds hanging from the ceiling. Some have made fabric felt squares of birds that we're turning into quilts. And we're putting it all together at the moment, and it's going to be hung next week. That's a much nicer background. That's a nice vivid blue. I'm glad I did that, because the first one was a bit pale. That's the thing, you can print over and over. You can just keep adding more layers. And you can press into it and leave an indent and change the colour. So now I'm going to get down to the tricky bit where you cut off the little sections and just add a different colour for each one. So I'm going to add a little bit of an orangey red beak. That was easy, just pick it up and pad it back on with your finger. And then it's going to be the bigger sections. I'm going to choose my colours carefully. I'm looking at primary and secondary colours. So red, yellow, blue, and then maybe a bit of green and orange as well. And I might leave one area white, which will add an extra colour. It's good to have the white there as a base for the other colours. It makes them brighter. I'm using lino printing ink. So the equipment that you need is black paper if you want black outlines, or white paper if you want white outlines. So paper, a pencil to press the pattern, the design, a craft knife and mat if you want to cut things out, or you can just keep pressing with the pencil until you go all the way through and then pop it out, snap it. And then you need some inks, a palette and a roller, and something to clean up with. And then you can just keep adding layers of colour as you go along. I really enjoy printing. It's very therapeutic, makes you feel good. You just get in the zone and you're just thinking about the printing, because there are so many different things you have to do. You can forget all about your worries and woes and just think about the little bird that you're printing in front of you. So here we go, adding a bit of reddy orange to it. That's presumably going to be the breast of the bird, although it might be a different place. Might be a different place. There we go, it's the tummy of the bird. So you just have a different section each time, and you just put it back together again with different colours. There we are, nice bit of red. You've got to be careful putting it back on after you've done the first take, because you can get smudges. Right, cutting off the tail. I always feel awful when I do this, when I disassemble something. It seems sacrilegious to take it apart like that when you've just spent time making it. But there is a meaning to this. There's a method in the madness. And it's to create this lovely, colourful bird. So I took this demo to the children, and they all did so well. They've got I think we have about 50 prints. The black and white ones were more successful because they added too much ink when they did the colour, because I went round squeezing out the colour for each of them, and in the meantime the ones that had already got it started applying it, and they did it too thickly. They need to be observed. If you're a teacher, then make sure that they roll out their colours thinly. If you have thick colours, you lose the black lines, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep the black lines so that there's a structure to the print. And you can end up with blobs down the runnels of the board if they put too much on. So it looks like I'm doing 2 green ones here. Lovely bright colours. I love these printing inks. I tried doing one polyboard printing with acrylic paint recently. One of my videos is that, and it was because I've just moved house and all of my equipment was accidentally sent to Blackpool because that was the only place that was open at the time. It was bank holiday, and so I lost a lot of my equipment. It was all packed away. And so I thought, let's try printing with acrylic, but it dries very fast and you don't get as even coverage. This ink that's designed for lino printing is much better, and it's quite cheap as well. You get a very large amount of it and you only need a little squirt of it, and you can get it from school suppliers. I got this from YPO, which is a school supplier, but if you are a business or an artist, you can sign up with an account and buy it from them, and it's quite cheap. Or you can buy it from other places. I think Jackson's Art sell it, and you can get it on Amazon, and you can get luminous day glow as well, which is what I took to the children. I used the boring ordinary colours. They used the day glow pinks and purples and greens, and it was a good fun lesson. They all thoroughly enjoyed it. There were 30 in each class, and they all joined in, and they were all very active and all produced. So it was an absolute hit of a lesson. Even with a rabble of 30 kids, little ones, it still works out because they all, once I'd done a demo for them and shown them what to do, they got it because it's quite a simple technique. And they all just went off and made their own. Some of them I wish had rolled out their ink a bit thinner, but, they can't all be perfect. And some of them, with these interesting inks, made some very interesting results. So we don't all want everybody doing the same thing. So it's lovely when you get success like that and every single person in the class produces, then it's great. So I think this bird's looking nice and colourful. And it's a good one to show how the process works, because it's a very familiar object. It's an easy shape for children to draw, or for anyone to draw, and it's very easy to chop up. You can still see what it is, even though it's been abstracted and turned into a cubist bird. The actual outline of the bird itself isn't. Might do that one again, that dark one, to get a bit more of the colour on there, a bit more contrast. You want to juxtapose your colours, bright against dark, patterned against solid colours, and complementary colours. You can put contrasting colours, ones that you find on the opposite sides of the colour wheel. You can put those next to each other and they make each other pop, like, say, purple and yellow, purple and orange. Or, there you go, look at that. The very dark one against the yellow, that pops, makes the yellow pop. And the red against the yellow is very nice. So there you go. Looking very cute. Now, what am I going to do for that final bit? Am I going to leave it white, which looks nice? Or am I going to try and... I think I might try and give it a little bit of a peachiness on its, like Robin Redbreast. It's going to have a bit of a peachy front, like a chaffinch. Chaffinch has a nice peachy white front. So I think that's what I'm going to do. And then it's just floating in the sky. I think it's very successful, this one. It's come out nicely. And polyboard printing is something that if you are a teacher and you want to teach it to a group of children, if you want to differentiate between them, then you can, there's all sorts of different ways that you can prepare things for them. And you can, some of them, instead of drawing with the pencil and pressing the lines down, they can poke holes with a pin. I use darning needles, the plastic ones, so it doesn't prick them. And you can poke holes with the pin through a tracing, so they can trace something or put a picture, just sellotape a picture to it, and then poke holes through, and then take the picture off and join them up afterwards, and that makes it easier for them. If you've got some people that need a lot of help, then you can start them off by poking the holes through, and they can join up those holes themselves and make the picture themselves. If you get some really able ones, you can give them more complex pictures to look at for inspiration. You can get them trying to sketch out real birds, first of all, pictures of the real thing. Lots of different ways you can differentiate between them. I think that's looking pretty wonderful there. Lots of different colours, and it's quite quick and easy to do. They can make more than one. They can do one that you know is going to be successful using the basic principles of it, or using the pinpricks, and make sure that, or the tracing, and that way you know that they're going to succeed. And then once they've got one successful one, they need to write their name on the back before they do the print, otherwise they can't turn it over. Once you know they've got one successful one, you can let them experiment, and they can go off and explore their own creativity. And there we go. There we have a little birdie with a peachy front. And I think he looks lovely. So perfect for year 4s and above.